Howdy everyone, my name is Paige Seitz and I'm a doctoral student in the Texas A&M Department of Agricultural Leadership, Education, and Communications. I am covering Chapter 6 from Everett Rogers' Diffusion of Innovations, Attributes of Innovations and Their Rate of Adoption. Today we'll be walking through the features of an extension program called Mighty Cotton and discussing different parts of the program as they relate to the 5 main attributes of innovations. This approach gives us a look into how we may think through programs and educational opportunities as change agents, what types of questions and concerns we may encounter, what our producers are looking for, and help us prepare to serve them while accomplishing the goals of our agency. The Mighty Cotton program focuses on tools and techniques that improve soil health to create more resilient farm production systems. We would consider this a technology cluster. If we think back to Chapter 1, this is a group of innovations that work together, are related in some capacity, and/or can influence each other. So in Mighty Cotton, these techniques are no-till or strip-till, cover crops, and strategic irrigation. So Dr. Paul DeLon from Texas A&M AgriLife Research is and has been doing some really great work in the High Plains area, demonstrating the yield improvement and gains in water use efficiency as a result of no-till with cover crop and just no-till in cotton. Kalal and colleagues, as well as Price, have demonstrated improved soil physical properties and weed control as a result of no-till practices. And so we're really pushing this as a system, a group of things that can be adopted together to create more resilient cropping systems, improve those physical and chemical soil properties, and reduce weeds. These images really drive home what we're up against in terms of building resilience. The top left is flooding from Hurricane Hannah, which hit the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas in late July of 2020, just as cotton harvest was starting for the year. This resulted in a near total crop loss in that area of Texas. The other 2 photos are from this year's drought in the High Plains and in Central Texas. As you can see, if the cotton put on any crop at all, it was incredibly small and probably not worth the cost of harvesting. We're looking at a 2022 harvest of less than half of the state's usual crop. So now that I've set the scene here, let's define soil health. Soil health is the ability of a soil to perform its usual functions of supporting healthy plant and animal life and improving or maintaining air and water quality. So soil health is a measurement of physical, chemical, and biological properties. As stewards, and all farmers are stewards of the land, these abilities can be enhanced or compromised by the management decisions that we make. So incorporating no-till practices and cover cropping has been shown to reduce weed pressure, improve soil structure and microbial activity, and increase soil water holding capacity. This means soils are better able to recycle nutrients, sequester greenhouse gases, and allow plant roots to become better established to reach available water and nutrients, especially in times of stress. Healthy soils may reduce the need for synthetic fertilizers and herbicide applications and help crops survive prolonged dry and/or windy periods. So let's talk tillage. No-till literally means that no tillage is occurring. Seed is drilled using a drill seeder, or can be planted using a cone planter that slices through plant residues and drops seed into a small furrow. This would be used in a conservation or strip-till scenario. Reduction or elimination of tillage allows for organic matter, like roots, to remain intact in the soil. It also means that soil structure remains undisturbed and earthworms and other critters are free to move about. Soil structure and biota are incredibly important to water and nutrient movement in soils. Roots and earthworms create channels for water to infiltrate deeply, and then roots die and worms produce castings, returning the nutrient-rich tissues to the system to be used by new plants. I keep talking about worms because they're tangible and easy for us to see, but there are billions of bacteria and fungi and protozoans and all kinds of microscopic bugs working in soils. Thriving soils mean thriving plants. So if we can facilitate better establishment below ground, then plants are more likely to survive harsh above ground conditions. So that was a lot. Let's tie that all in with Rogers. So Rogers identified 5 main attributes of innovations. Those are relative advantage, compatibility, complexity, trialability, and observability. One thing to keep in mind is that these are not the only 5, but the ones that are primarily studied in research, and they're the ones that are the most often relevant. There are some other attributes such as voluntariness, image, and result demonstrability that Rogers discusses as well. Voluntariness means, is it optional? Image is related to social status, and demonstrability is how easy it is to communicate, which is similar to observability. Today we're just focusing on the big 5, and we can think of these attributes as guideposts. So these are destinations we must visit as change agents as we lead others on this journey of change. We'll break down the Mighty Cotton program into these 5 categories and discuss how we can check all of those boxes for our farmers and check all of those destinations off of our list, as well as how these attributes can affect the rate of adoption of the practices that we're teaching. I want to share this quote from Rogers, which I think is a really important takeaway from this chapter. On page 223, he states, "The individual's perception of the attributes of an innovation, not the attributes as classified objectively by experts or change agents, affects its rate of adoption." I think this quote really captures the essence of change. Ultimately, it's not what the experts say. It's not what the change agents say that matters. It's how it's perceived by the individuals that ultimately change their behavior that matters. And so it's up to us as change agents to remember that a key part of our duty is to decrease uncertainty and create an environment in which these adopters can become receptive to those changes. So we're supposed to guide them through the process with education and resources. So let's walk through our 5 attributes. Our first is relative advantage. So relative advantage helps us answer the question of how does this innovation help and why is it better than what we're already doing or what we already have? So the relative advantage for this program is going to revolve quite a bit around economics. So we're looking at reduced costs through fuel reduction with no-till, fuel reduction costs of fewer chemical applications, and no use of sand fighters, which we use sometimes in the high plains to prevent damage to seedlings from blowing sand. We also have lower irrigation costs and fertilizer costs as a result of improved soil structure. And these relative advantages should increase the rate of adoption if they align with the farmer's goal, and we'll dive more into that later. Though cover crops have advantages, we're also looking at increased seed costs there. That may be a hurdle that could decrease adoption. So these are all some things to think about when discussing with our farmers. Our next attribute is compatibility. So this helps us answer the question, how does that innovation, or in this case, the system of innovations, fit with the farmer's operation, goals, and beliefs? So for compatibility, we may be looking at things like, are there conservation programs that are available to support this transition financially? That can also provide additional educational resources to our farmers so they're not just going in blind and trying to learn new techniques. Another really important aspect of compatibility in this program is going to be values and culture in the area. And so inherently, farmers are a proud group of people. They work really hard to take care of their property and make a good living for their families. And so with some of these sustainable practices, we may incur the challenge of pride. So in this case, a lot of our no-till practices, the fields just don't look as appealing. And so we have to overcome that barrier of not being the farmer with the quote-unquote trashy field and those types of beliefs within their social system. We also have to consider how these practices are going to fit with their management system. They oftentimes have, a finely tuned schedule of when certain practices are supposed to happen throughout the growing season. And so, without irrigating at certain times and cultivating at certain times and applying different inputs regularly may affect how that management system flows. Our next attribute is complexity. So complexity helps us answer the question of how intricate is the innovation to learn? How complicated is it? How can we facilitate that learning? And so this is, with complexity, the more complex an innovation is, the slower its rate of adoption. Fortunately for us, this program is asking them mostly to not do things. So the level of complexity could be low, but also we foresee some issues with identifying the right cover crops for their region. We talked a little bit about management schedule on the last slide. So a new plan, shifting those activities around, helping them find ways to answer those questions. That's essential to our duties as a change agent. Helping them get familiar with different equipment that maybe they have to use now instead of what they were using before. And a really great way to help reduce complexity is just get them talking amongst their peers. So facilitating peer groups with opinion leaders in their community that may already be doing some of these practices, and give them a friendly face to ask questions to that they already know. Our fourth attribute is trialability. This answers the question, can the farmer try it on a smaller scale and or see someone else's attempt? So again, I will reiterate, as a change agent, it's our duty to reduce uncertainty, and trialability is really key in providing some assurance that the risk that they're about to take in changing their behavior is legitimate, and they have some proof that it's at least feasible. So for extension, this is demonstration plots and field days. Maybe we can set up a co-op of growers that want to share a collective equipment so they can all try different things on a small scale and share those pieces of equipment before they invest and go all in. And it really helps them answer the question of, will this work for me? Our last attribute provided by Rogers is observability. So this is, can the farmer see the benefits or the effects of the innovation? So again, those extension demonstrations and field days are really key. Seeing the effects on other farms as they drive by from other people who have already adopted these changes. In this case, for this program, it's going to be a challenge because a lot of our soil health practices may take a few years to several years to be able to see any marked difference in soil health. Things like weed control from cover cropping should be apparent pretty quickly within a growing season. But things like soil structure and the amount of organic matter in the soil, the biology of the soil, all the things that live in it, those things really take time to recover and come back. And so this is going to be a challenge for us to overcome. So a long-term extension demo would be great here. Or if you can partner with those opinion leaders in your communities that have been doing this, and maybe use their site as a field day so you can show, hey, this is the potential that we're striving for here. So again, observability really is just seeing is believing, right? And so if we can show them, that just helps, again, ease that uncertainty. So I hope this has been a helpful way to think through those attributes. I'm using several different angles from one program, and hopefully this kind of walks you through in a context that most of us are familiar with and preparing to work in. Thank you. Have a great day.